What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lunch Table Sports Podcast. Today, we have our mock draft special. Last night was the lottery, and Adyn, how excited were you to see the Pistons land number one?
Well, I'm not the biggest or as big of a Pistons fan as you, but we live in Detroit, and it's exciting to see something good happen to the Detroit teams, and it's obviously really exciting that a guy like that gets to come to Detroit and big young piece, and he's going to come in right away and be their top player and bring some excitement to the team, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I know who Adyn was referring to is Cade Cunningham. He's just something else. He's everything you could ask for in a prospect, and we're going to jump into my post-lottery NBA mock draft right here. Can you see it?
Yep.
All right. Pick one. We have the Detroit Pistons. Select Cade Cunningham, point guard, Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham is 6'8", 220 pounds. He averaged 20.1 points, 3.5 assists, and 6 rebounds a night. Cade Cunningham is just a mismatch nightmare. He can take it to the rim on smaller defenders. You try to put a bigger defender on him, he can cross him up with his great shot-making ability. He's a huge in the pick and roll. So you match him up with Isaiah Stewart, they can do some damage.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, he's a consensus number one, and I mean, a guy at that height, that skill set reminds me of like a Magic Johnson type. I mean, different play style, but that size and that ability to be a mismatch and on any point guard in the NBA right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I've seen a lot like NBA scouts and analysis say that they're worried about his assist numbers, but I wouldn't say that's a worry at all. I think that'll go up once he starts playing with better players in the NBA. And I just think he's an all around like amazing player, and he's going to come in right away and be a stud for the Pistons.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with your Magic Johnson comparison. Uh, that's very similar who I'm comparing to. My NBA count for him is Luka Doncic. I think they're both big guards. Doncic at 6'7", Cunningham at 6'8". I think they both excel shot making wise. And yeah. Okay, my next pick is the Houston Rockets. Select Evan Mobley, center, USC. Mobley stands at 7 foot, 215 pounds. He averaged 16.4 points, 2.4 assists, and 8.7 rebounds. He has great size for a modern day big. He's very explosive and fast off of his cuts and his jumps. He's a great lob threat and great in the pick and roll. He is solid shooting, but he can develop that throughout his NBA career. But he's a little too non-physical sometimes in rebounding. He gets boxed out a little too easily. My NBA comparison for him is Chris Bosh.
Yeah, I like this pick too. I'll agree with you here. Houston, I mean, they got Christian Wood there, kind of running the 4 or 5. I think he can come in. They can be a dynamic duo, and I mean, he was great. I mean, the March Madness biggest stage, he was one of their best players. Stood out for me. I just think that Houston fans should be excited to get him.
Yeah, for sure. Agree with you there. Next pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers select Jalen Green, shooting guard, G League. Green stands at 6'6", 186 pounds. He averaged 18 points, 2.8 assists, and 4.1 rebounds. He's probably the best pure scorer in this draft. He's a bucket getter. You need a bucket, go to Jalen Green. He's very explosive and has great handles. He's a dunk machine too. He has a weak defensive presence, and he gets crossed up easily and lost in traffic on the defensive side. My NBA comparison for him is Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that comparison a lot. I mean, he's a straight bucket getter and super gifted on the offensive side. And I think that Cleveland here, I mean, they already have so many guards on their team with Sexton and Garland. I think that he'll be a perfect wing player to come in, pair with those guys. And then, yeah, I think that they're getting a stud here too.
Yeah, another thing to look for is he's a shooting guard. Sexton's a shooting guard. Cleveland could possibly explore the trade market for Sexton. I've been hearing reports they could trade Sexton for Simmons. Would you like that if you're Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean that I don't know how that'd be a little bit of a weird fit, I think. I mean, I'd say he'd play more of a big role than a ball handler there. I mean, he's got, all the questions with Simmons right now coming off his playoff performances. But I mean, anytime I think you know the potential with Ben Simmons and what he can be. So I think that any team that gets him, he can come in and be a good player for them.
Yep, agreed. Next pick, we have the Toronto Raptors selecting Jalen Suggs, point guard, Gonzaga. Suggs is 6'4", 205 pounds. He averaged 14.4 points, 4.5 assists, and 5.3 rebounds. He has great size and length for a point guard. His passing ability is great. He kind of makes everybody around him better when he's on the floor. He's great at driving to the rim, but he's a little too much of a streak shooter. My NBA count for him is Jason Kidd.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, Jalen Suggs, he's obviously stud, and uh, I think he would go above Jalen Green maybe, but the Cavs they have too many guards, and I think that he'll be a perfect replacement for Lowry if they let him go this free agency. And I think that he's going to come in. I mean, be a ball handler, the main ball handler in that offense on that team, distribute the ball to those guys, and just be another dynamic player to bring into that team.
Yep. Next pick is the Orlando Magic, and they select Jonathan Kuminga, small forward from the G League. Kuminga is 6'8", 220 pounds. He averaged 16 points, 2.7 assists, and 7.2 rebounds. He's really explosive, kind of like Green. He's a great bucket getter. He's a little more raw. He's probably the most raw out of these top 5 guys. So he needs a little bit of development. I think the Magic can do that. They're a rebuilding team, so they don't really expect to be good in the next 3 years. So I think letting him develop with the Magic is great. My comp for him is a more athletic Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think that, I mean, just another young player to bring into Orlando to pair with Cole Anthony and RJ Hampton and be that wing guy that, I mean, he's proved it this year against pro guys. I mean, he played in the G League, not college. So he did it against older grown men. And I think that just proves that he's NBA ready.
Yep. So this next pick is the Thunder, and this might come as a little surprise for you. Most people have been mocking this guy late lottery, maybe just outside the lottery, but I'm going 6 here to the Thunder, and that's Josh Giddey, point guard, Australia. Giddey's 6'8" as a point guard. He's probably the best playmaker in this draft. He played overseas. He played in Australia. So he's already going against pro guys. He's pretty raw too. He's only 18 years old. So I think it'll actually be pretty good for him to sit behind Kemba for a year if he stays on OKC and just learn from him. But that's why I'm going to the Thunder here.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I don't know a ton about this guy. I mean, he played overseas in Australia. I know he's a great distributor, great ball handler. He can be that point guard for them to pair along with Shea for the future. So I like that there.
Okay, pick 7. We have the Warriors, and the Warriors select Scotty Barnes, power forward, Florida State. I think I see so much of Draymond Green and Scotty Barnes. And I was thinking, who needs like that Draymond Green on their team? And I think it is the Warriors. I mean, Draymond Green is getting up there in age. He's hasn't really been as productive. So I think Scotty Barnes, it would be great for him to sit behind Draymond Green for a few years and just learn from him and grow as a player, and then eventually be able to step in and replace him. So that's why I've gone to the Warriors.
Yeah, I like that there. I think he's a good combo forward, plays both ends of the ball, good defender, like you said. And I think that I agree with you completely that he'll come in, learn from Draymond, become an even better defender sitting behind him. And I think he'll be the power forward of the future with Wiseman in that front court.
Yeah, that team definitely will not fall off. Next pick, we have the Magic, and the Magic select Davion Mitchell, point guard, Baylor. I see a ton of Marcus Smart and Davion Mitchell. They're both tremendous perimeter defenders. They can both shoot the ball if need be, and they have a little offensive game. I think Davion Mitchell will be a better offensive player than Marcus Smart in the league, and that's why I think the Magic take him. They already have Jonathan Isaac, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA. I think you bring in Mitchell, along with the starting five: Markel Fultz, Davion Mitchell, Kuminga, Isaac, and Wendell Carter Jr. That could be pretty scary for the future.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, this guy was an absolute stud in that Baylor run that they won the national championship. And I think he was the best player on that team. And the biggest part of why they won that, I like him a lot. And I think that I agree with that comparison completely. That Marcus Smart, good two-way. He's a dog on the defensive side, and he can score the ball too. And I think that he's NBA ready too. He's a junior. He's not a freshman like some of these other guys. And I just think that yeah, he's come in and he'll be a right away impact in the NBA.
Yeah. Next pick, we have the Sacramento Kings selecting Franz Wagner, small forward, Michigan. Franz Wagner is a great defender. He was probably one of the best defenders in the Big Ten last year. He's very lengthy. I'm not sure of his wingspan, but I heard some scouts say it could be over 6'8" and over 6'9", I mean. And that's tremendous for a guy his size and his position. He's a little taller. He's around 6'10". And the Sacramento Kings were the worst defensive team in the NBA. So I think you get him in that rotation, and he could be a big impact on the Kings.
Yeah, I mean, me and you are both big Michigan fans, and we watched this guy all year, and I agree with you completely that he's a complete stud, and he was a big impact on that Michigan team and why they were so good this year. And he didn't have the best tournament. I think that might have lowered his draft stock a little bit, but he's still a great player, and I agree with you completely that he's a great defensive player. Needs to work on that 3-pointer a little bit. I mean, I've seen a lot of scouts talk about it, below average 3-point shooter, but I think if he gets that up, he can be a great player in the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree. Next pick, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, and they select Keon Johnson, shooting guard, Tennessee. Keon Johnson, along with Franz Wagner and Davion Mitchell, you kind of see the pattern here. This is a great defensive draft. And why not draft defense? Keon Johnson is probably the second best perimeter defender, I would say, in this draft behind Davion Mitchell. He's a dog. Like, he's going to get in your face. He's not afraid to, rough you up a little bit. I think that's exactly what the Pelicans need. They got their scoring and Ingram, Zion. Who knows if they bring back Lonzo. But I think you plug in Keon Johnson to that shooting guard spot where Eric Bledsoe struggled last year. I think he can fill his steps.
Yeah, I like that. I think he'd be the perfect fit alongside those guys where they don't really need another guy to score the ball. But if I think they have a guy like that on the defensive end who just can lock guys up and just guard 1 through 2, like shooting guard or point guard, lock your best player up and make it a hard night for any guy on the floor.
Yep. Next pick, we got the Hornets, and they select Kai Jones, center, Texas. Kai Jones is a little bit of people could say this is a reach here. I don't really think so because I think the Hornets desperately need a center. They got their starting five pretty much figured out for the future with like LaMelo, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington. All they really need is that lob threat at center. I think Kai Jones can fit that perfectly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the Hornets they got their backcourt basically set up for the future. I mean, they got LaMelo and they got Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham, Malik Monk. I think that they need that big man of the future, and I've seen a lot of scouts rank him as the number one power forward in this draft, and I think that he'll be a perfect guy to bring in with all those other young players and be their one of their bigs of the future.
Yeah, I agree. Next pick, we got the San Antonio Spurs who select Jalen Johnson, small forward / power forward from Duke. Jalen Johnson was a guy, he opted out around February of this past season, which lowered his draft stock quite a bit because he was projected a easy top 7 pick before he opted out. So I think him opting out lowered his draft stock, which I think he's a guy probably has the highest upside in this draft, but the biggest risk in this draft. I think him going with Pop, he can fill in that power forward role, which they kind of been lacking of, and I think he'll do great with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that any guy that, I mean, he opted out of the season. It reminds me of a little bit of Michael Porter Jr., where he didn't play that year and he's got probably the most upside in the draft. I mean, I think it's worth it to take a swing on him, and he can be a stud for your team.
Yeah, agreed. Next pick, the second to last pick in the lottery, we have the Indiana Pacers select Moses Moody, shooting guard slash small forward from Arkansas. Moses Moody is one of my top 10 prospects. I think really highly of him. I would even take him with a top 8 pick. So this is tremendous value for the Pacers getting him here. TJ Warren missed so much last year with injuries. Karis LeVert missed so much of last year with injuries for the Pacers. So I think getting Moses Moody can help fill those holes when those guys go down with injury. I think he's one of the best 3 and D player in this draft. He plays great defense and he has a great 3-point shot. And I think this is a great fit with the Pacers.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't really know much about this guy, so I'll keep it with what you said, and yeah, I like that.
Final pick of the lottery, we have the Golden State Warriors select James Bouknight, shooting guard, UConn. Bouknight is a tremendous shooter with great athletic upside. Klay Thompson, unfortunately, has been battling with a ton of injuries. It's shown, I mean, the Warriors missed the last 2 years without Klay. I think getting his replacement, he's due to come back this year, but who knows if he'll be as good as he was. So then getting a replacement for Klay Thompson is great, and I think Bouknight is a great pick here.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, Buchner is one of my favorite players in all of college basketball this year. I think he's super fun to watch, and I had UConn going far, but I mean, they kind of disappointed me this year in the March Madness. But he's super athletic, super fun to watch. I think pairing him with Steph Curry in that backcourt would be super fun to watch and dangerous for the future.
Yeah. All right. So now that we're outside of the lottery, we're going to go kind of fast here. I'm going to go picks 5 through 19, and then you tell me who the most intriguing prospect is out of the picks. 15, I have the Wizards selecting Isaiah Jackson, center, Kentucky. 16, I have the Thunder selecting Alperen Sengun, center, Turkey. 17, Grizzlies, I have taking Trey Mann, point guard slash shooting guard, Florida. Pick 18, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting Corey Kispert, small forward, Gonzaga. Finally, pick 19, I have the Knicks selecting Jared Butler, point guard.
So yeah, all those guys, I mean, they're all great players, but I'm a big Corey Kispert fan. I mean, he was a big part of that Gonzaga run this year, and he was the heart and soul of that team. He's an older guy, so I think he could come in and be an impact player right away for whatever team drafts him. And I think that would be he's got not as much upside as the other guys because he's a little bit older, but I think that you're going to get from him, and it'll be a good pick where it's a lot more hit and not so much miss on that pick.
Yeah, I know. I think he'll go great with the Thunder. They desperately need shooting. He would do a great job. Guy that stands out to me is Trey Mann, guard from Florida. I think Trey Mann is a guy who, nearing the start of the draft, he could rise into the lottery. I loved watching him this past tournament. He only played 2 games, but he was tremendous in those 2 games. I have him going to the Grizzlies here. I think he'll play the shooting guard probably for him. I think he could step up and play right away for them next to John Morant. I think you could potentially see a lineup of John Morant, Trey Mann, Dillon Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, the next 5 are 20 through 25. 20, I have the Hawks selecting Jaden Springer, guard, Tennessee. 21, I have the Knicks selecting Zaire Williams, small forward, Stanford. 22, I have the Lakers selecting Cam Thomas, shooting guard, LSU. 23, I have the Rockets selecting Sharif Cooper, point guard, Auburn. 24, I have the Rockets selecting Usman Garuba, power forward, Spain.
So I'm a big Cameron Thomas fan. I think he was a stud for LSU in that tournament run, and they almost knocked Michigan out. And he's by far the best player on that team. And I mean, he's a bucket getter too. He'll go out and get you buckets. He can score, and you're going to get from him. He's just a straight scorer. He's really good on the offensive side, and he's got some defensive upside too. He's a serviceable defender, and I think that he could be great in the NBA.
Yeah, I love Cam Thomas. This is a guy who averaged 23.5 points at LSU, shooting great efficiency-wise. I don't see why this guy shouldn't be a lottery pick. I think this guy is a deep sleeper, and teams are going to regret passing on him. Guy who stood out to me is Zaire Williams going to the Knicks. He had a bit of a disappointing year at Stanford as the fifth recruit in the country. He only had about 10 points per game on pretty bad efficiency, but watching him play, he's extremely athletic. And I think if the Knicks can develop his shot and his defense, he can be very good in the NBA.
Yeah, I like that. I think the Knicks, I mean, they got some young players, but it never hurts to add some more young players to the team. And a guy like that who's super athletic and can come in and pair alongside RJ Barrett and Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson, those guys they already have there.
Yep. Next, I'm going to go through 25 to 27. 25, the Clippers select Ayu Dosunmu, point guard, Illinois. 26, the Nuggets select Chris Duraday, shooting guard, Oregon. And 27, the next select Aaron Henry, small forward, Michigan State.
Yeah, so I'm a big Ayu Dosunmu fan. I had Illinois winning my bracket NCAA. I think that he's a great combo point guard, and he can score the ball, but more importantly, he's a really good distributor, and he sees the floor really well, and he's also a good defender. So he's a great two-way point guard that can make an impact on any NBA team.
Yeah, I completely agree. The guy who stands out to me is kind of a toss-up. I love Chris Duraday. He's a great shooter from Oregon. I think he would fit nicely with the Nuggets. But this hurts me to say, but because I'm a Michigan fan, I also love Aaron Henry as a prospect. He's probably one of the better defenders in this draft class. He can guard probably positions point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and the power forward, which I think will be a great value for the Nets because they really lack defense. Their only really defender on that team is Bruce Brown. So I think adding a guy like Aaron Henry to that team with his defense can be.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I mean, the Nets, they need some young players, and I think this draft, it's a really deep draft, and they can get a really good player here.
Final three picks are 76ers, JT Thor, center, Auburn. 29 Suns select Miles McBride, point guard, West Virginia. And finally, the Jazz select Trey Murphy, wing, Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, I like those guys too. I'm a little surprised you don't have Josh Christopher in here. Josh Christopher's a
Yeah,
guy that I liked him since high school. I mean, didn't have the best year, a little bit of a down year since high school. He's really high touted NBA or college player coming in, college recruit, and I mean, I think that he can come in. I mean, he's a scorer. He's really athletic, and I think that playing in the NBA with some better players than he did at Arizona State, I think that he's gonna have a way better year, and he's got so much upside that I think you can't pass on him.
yeah, it was tough leaving him out of this mock. My only knock on him is he's a little too reckless sometimes, and he doesn't really put a lot of effort into his defense. He's tremendously gifted on the offensive side. I do think he'll be a great player in the NBA offensively. His defensive concerns worry me too much to put him in the first round.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A guy who stood out to me right here is Miles McBride, point guard, West Virginia. I think him going to the Suns would be great. Cam Payne's a free agent. We see what he's been doing in this playoffs. He just scored 29 points last night against the Clippers in that great Suns finish with that DeAndre Ayton slam to win it. But I think, Cam Payne's going to want a lot of money in the offseason, so bringing in Miles McBride can be great for them.
Agree with that too.
All right, that is it for today's episode of the Mock Draft Special, and we'll see you guys next time.